Those temperatures once again in the mid to upper 90s with the heat index up over 100. It's going to be sunny and hot right through the weekend. I'm First Alert KMOV meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to Colombo and Company on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and we have got a great show for you today. Another busy day in the always chaotic news cycle. We're going to keep you up to speed on everything that is going on out there. We've got Francesca Hong. We barely knew you. And she's already gone. The progressive, I don't even know if you can call them Democrats anymore. The Democrat candidate for governor up there in Wisconsin that said that we should do away with Thanksgiving. That would be, one of the things that she'd like to see happen if she were to become a leader in politics. She's going to get rid of Thanksgiving. She lost. They had their primaries yesterday in Wisconsin, and she lost. And there has been a lot of fallout from that, especially from the extreme left. I've said this before. I've been aware of Hassan Piker for a long time, but that's because I watch a lot of podcasts and, alternative media channels on YouTube and Rumble and other places. And in the live streaming world, Hassan Piker has been a well-known entity for a while, but not obviously not on the main stage. As crazy as this world is, and as backwards and nutty as some of the people are that have gained national relevancy, the Ilhan Omars and AOCs and Zorhan Mandanis of the world that are, nuts. I still never thought that there was a mainstream path forward for somebody as anti-American, as uber progressive, socialist, just the most extreme version of all of those things. I even in this political culture in 2026, I didn't think that there was a path to mainstream attention for a guy like Hassan Piker, but now he's there. He's in all these stories, and he's a big part of the he was one of the most outspoken liberals after this primary election in Wisconsin with Francesca Hong. So I want to talk a little bit about that as we go through the afternoon. Speaking of lunatics on the left, Zorhan Mandani is kind of in a little bit of a back and forth with the New York Police Department. His wife is apparently traveling to the Middle East, and Zorhan Mandani told the press and the people there in New York that the New York Police Department, who he has bashed and belittled and called for, defunding of his own police department in the past, He claimed that the New York Police Department would be handling security for his wife. He's going to send cops that should be serving the people of New York. He's going to send cops to the Middle East to protect his wife. Funny how they always want the cops around, when it's their safety, when it's their family, when it's them that need protection. But, outside of that, they don't want cops around. They don't want police departments around. They don't want to fund them. They want to replace. They want, a therapist showing up at your door if you call 911 instead of a police officer. But he talked about this, about, the press is always all over him about everything up there, asking questions about everything. So they're talking about this trip. And he's like, yeah, my wife is going to the Middle East, and the New York Police Department is going to be handling the security and traveling with her. And the New York Police Department has come out today and said, that's news to us. We are not in the business of providing personal security for politicians' family as they travel abroad. Our service is to the people of New York City. That's who we work for. So pretty funny stuff. I want to dig into that story a little bit as we go through the afternoon. I read a headline today that it made me scratch my head a little bit. And I thought, maybe did I miss something here? The headline said, Donald Trump finally addresses whether or not he'll run for a third term. Was this something? Did I miss something here? Has this been a topic? Have we been asked? Has the media been waiting? Have we been waiting for Trump's decision? Because he can't run for a third term. It's in the Constitution pretty clearly. And I know we've talked a lot about 2028 and the idea of Vance and Rubio, and it looks like those two are still the ones on the path to, be the most likely Republican nominee. So I know we've talked about the 2028 presidential election in the news over the last several months, but that headline, Trump finally addresses whether he'll run for a third term or not. I didn't realize this was something we were all waiting for. I'm going to fill you. We're going to talk about it later because, again, I think more than anything, I think the reporting is the news than the actual story here. But I will spoil the ending. He's not, because he can't. And he knows that. And I don't think he wants to anyway. I think Barack Obama did want to. And maybe if Trump was a younger man, maybe he would. But especially if he's able to wrap things up with Iran and have, he's been on a decent run with the economy, all things considered at least, and comparatively to his predecessors. I think he wants to walk away with a decent record, at least a decent record in his mind, but something that Republicans can, hang their hat on. I don't think he even wants to do another 4 years. Look, Donald Trump loves the spotlight, like all these politicians do. He loves being the center of attention, but he doesn't need the office of presidency to be the center of attention. Donald Trump is still going to be relevant and have people following him and reporters, always asking him about literally everything. So he doesn't need that to continue to be that guy that, is under the national spotlight. So it just really, really caught me off guard. Like, I was like, what? Did I miss something here? Has there been a conversation? Has this been something that he's been addressing? I know like about a year ago, I think it was. I remember him being on Meet the Press or one of those Sunday shows. And the reporter was kind of pressing him about it. And he said, there's, very Trump fashion, there are paths. There are paths forward. There are paths to do it if we wanted to entertain the idea of running for a third term. But that was like the one and only time that I can remember. But that headline, he finally addresses it. I didn't know we were waiting for that. But I want to talk about that story as we go through the day as well. We've got more coming out of Iran. What a week with Iran. Donald Trump making the announcement earlier this week that we're no longer in a heavy military phase in our dealings with Iran, that he's letting the economy and the economic pressures that have been applied by, the isolation and the sanctions and the war that have crippled the Iranian government and military and economy and all of these things. And he said, that's the pressure for now, which disappointed a lot of people, including me, because I feel like we're taking a step backwards here and we're back to this just spinning our wheels. We've got, we're always 48 hours away from we're 48 hours away from a big agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we been 48 hours away over the last 4 months? Super frustrating. So I haven't liked that. And then, on top of that, sort of regression, in my opinion at least, the Iranians have been on one with talking trash on the international stage, making demands, literally putting out a list of demands that they say that the United States must meet before that they would consider reopening the Strait of Hormuz. That was, I think, Monday, where they laid out their 6 demands. And yeah, here it is. I remember the term, what they called behavior correction for the United States. How we have allowed them to be able to pop off like this. We've given them the strength, we've given them the idea that they can do this on the national stage is already a big problem, or the international stage is already a big problem. But that just plays into the whole larger picture. Yeah, Monday they laid out 6 demandments for U.S. behavioral correction before opening the strait. Then yesterday, Iran demanded concessions from the United States. And then I think it was last night, and I don't think we've talked about this yet. Last night, they popped off about their military, and they said that everything that's been destroyed by the United States has been rebuilt. That their military is back at 100%. They've fixed all the boats. They fixed all the airplanes and rebuilt the missiles, and they're all good to go. So, look out. And then today they popped off again with more guidelines. Like they just continue to be the ones that I don't think this is what's happening in reality behind the scenes, but certainly we've allowed them in the media, and we've allowed the message around the world to be that they're the ones calling the shots and they're dictating how this goes forward. And even if that's not the truth behind the scenes, it's ridiculous that we have allowed that to happen. And as I said earlier this week, if this was under Joe Biden, if Joe Biden was president, and I did a story on the air, and the headline was, Iran releases 6 demands to the United States of behavioral correction before we'll open the Strait of Hormuz, we would be burying Joe Biden or Barack Obama if that happened under their presidency for being weak and embarrassing on the world stage to allow a terrorist country that we're at war with to behave like that. We'd be calling, and rightfully so, we would be calling them out. So it's not okay. It's been a big problem. So we'll get you the latest on everything happening with Iran also as we go through the day. It's Wednesday, which means we're going to have a little fun. And the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to lighten things up. Talk to our buddies Mark Close from KC95 and Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet when we open up Close's Cabinet. Always fun and a perfect break, of these frustrating news stories and all the things that we talk about. Nice to take that midweek break. So that's just after 3 o'clock. We'll open up Close's Cabinet, and we are going to be joined in just a minute to help us dig into these stories and hopefully make some sense of this crazy world. Our intrepid young Cub reporter in the field, reporting from somewhere secretly this big planet, covering all the stories that are important to you. STEL Babe, producer STEL PONTIKES, joins the conversation next here on Colombo Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
License number GL250000615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. Bad wiring or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Susie Moore here for the team at Mattress Dogs. They're proud to be family-owned and operated. Thanks to customers just like you, they've grown from 1 store to 5 across the St. Louis area, each filled with the latest sleep technology and America's most trusted mattress brands. Right now, during the Labor Day sale, save thousands on Tempur-Pedic, Beautyrest Black, Sealy Posturepedic, King Coil, and more. Plus, save up to 70% off retail on select clearance mattresses while they last.
Visit any of the 5 Mattress Dogs locations or shop online today at mattressdogs.com. MattressDoggzz.com.
Country Mart in St. Clair's Big 16-hour sale is this Saturday, August 15th. Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or 7-Up products, 6-pack of 16.9-ounce bottles, 4 for $10. White sandwich bread, $1.48. Premium sliced bacon, $3.29. Beef steak tomatoes, $1.19 a pound. Best Choice boneless, skinless chicken breast, $6.49 for the 2.5-pound bag. And Best Choice drinking water, 24-pack, 2 for $5. Hurry while supplies last. No rain checks. See all items on our Facebook page. 925 Plaza Drive in St. Clair.
Hunters, now is the time to get ready. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors. Listen, don't wait until the season opener to dial that bow in. Whistle Pig offers paper tuning, bow adjustments, string replacement, and custom arrows. Plus, Hoyt and Bear archery bows, crossbows from 10 Point and Raven, and accessories from all of the top brands. Archery season opens in September, but now is the time to practice and get ready. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Visit whistlepigoutdoors.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Who killed Tupac? After 30 years, will we finally have an answer? Legal Eagle Zach Smith will give us an update on the Dwayne Davis trial at 420.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Joined now on the line by our intrepid Cub reporter in the field who is out there covering all the important stories and reporting back to us to keep us safe, informed, educated, all of those good words that you can think of. STEL Babe. STEL PONTIKES. Producer STEL on the line with us. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Tony, babe. Glad to join you on this wacky Wednesday.
It is
I'm
a
doing
wacky
fine.
Wednesday.
How are you?
It is a wacky Wednesday. Where to start? I want to talk about Zoran Mondani. I want to talk about Francesca Hong. Let's start with Francesca, because we barely knew you, Francesca. Kind of like Graham Plattner. It looks like she is not going to be the Democratic nominee for governor in Wisconsin. They had their
the People's Republic of Wisconsin.
The people voted, and I'm a little bit surprised because we have seen, Zoran Mondani, winning in New York, and we've seen others, we've seen these crazy, all the success that Graham Plattner had. I mean, it took 35 sexual assault allegations and the transcripts of him, having inappropriate conversations with minors on the internet, and a Nazi tattoo on his chest before it was finally enough to get him, off the national stage. So I'm actually a little surprised that it looks like Francesca Hong has lost. So like I said, their primary was yesterday, and there was a few other candidates, so it wasn't like a 50, there wasn't between her and the other top person. It wasn't, all 100%. But Crowley, who is the state senator up there, who is the more traditional Democrat that was running against her, got 39.8% of the vote, and Hong got 39.3% of the vote. So just half of a percent separating the two. Very, very close. I mentioned Hassan Piker in the first segment, him and some others on the far left like Ilhan Omar and Ro Khanna, and, folks like that have been speaking out and upset about these election results. What do you make of it? Are you surprised, maybe pleasantly surprised for once, that one of these lunatics lost an election? You feel like it's the end of Francesca Hong? What do you make of this result in Wisconsin?
I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised, because I was very concerned. And like you mentioned, the race was really close. I think there was only a separation of maybe 3,500 votes between Crowley and Hong. But I have to say that it did surprise me a bit. And I guess I should extend a thank you note to the voters in Wisconsin for at least making some sense of what's a ridiculous platform that she was running on. Thanksgiving is safe. Hey, Tony.
Thanksgiving is safe.
Thanksgiving's safe. Hong's out of the race.
Yeah, right? I'm looking here at the latest results on the New York Times website right now, and 95% of the votes in. David Crowley, the projected winner, with 39.8%, as I mentioned, of the vote. 315,308. And Francesca Hong, 39.3, 311,000. So just, like you said, just about 3,000 votes separating the two of them there in this Democratic primary. So we'll see what those numbers
Tony, I will admit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will admit, by the way, that I was pretty nervous after hearing that at 3 a.m. they still had thousands of votes from Milwaukee that were not tallied yet.
Wisconsin was one of those states, if you remember, in 2020.
Yes.
They were one of those, what was it, like 6 states, I think? 6 or 7 states that were the ones that
all of a sudden.
Yeah, got a little wonky in the on election night and then the days following. So, this is not their first rodeo with that type of thing.
And speaking.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, speaking of wonky, if you want to move over to New York City with Mondani.
Oh, I do in a second, but I wanted to say, just as an aside, even since I've been covering the news, in the last 10, 15 years, however long it's been since I switched over from music radio, and have been, I've always been a news nerd, and especially an election geek. But even I have been sort of surprised and had to kind of do a double take at the fact that this is Wisconsin. Like, I'm used, when we're talking about either coast, if we're talking about California or New York or somewhere else, in the Northeast, or on the West Coast, or in Illinois with Chicago, you get used to it. But we vacation in Michigan often, and go up there north to Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. It's strange that there's such a strong, successful group of these crazy progressive leftists in states like Minnesota and Wisconsin. It doesn't seem like that would be the place that people like Francesca Hong or Ilhan Omar or Tim Walz, or if you're Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, that these type of people would thrive. And, I know it's the big cities and everything, but, it just doesn't feel like that's the part of the country that should be cultivating these crazies, but they are. And it's weird, isn't it?
It's funny. If you look across the tier of northern states, and I think you and I have talked about this in the past when we joked about what's in the water up there.
Yeah.
Because you've got Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. I would toss in New York State, because even though there are tons of Republicans in mid New York State and upper New York State, still they're dominated by all sorts of wacky people in Albany. And then you've got the whole segment of states in the Northeast. It's as though that northern tier has something funky going on. And the reason I was going to mention Mondami is because there was a report that the rents in New York City hit another record high. Boy, you're doing a great job there.
Well, who cares? Because you don't have to pay it.
Mondami.
But you don't have to pay it.
Well, that's,
they can charge as much rent as they want. Mondani he's the one that tells it says don't worry about it. You don't have to pay that rent. And kind of to transition over to Mondani, Hassan Piker was one of the most outspoken people after it was announced that Francesca Hong was going to lose. And he was asked about the midterm elections and just future elections because he was one of them that was he campaigned for Francesca Hong along with Ro Khanna and Ilhan Omar and others, these extreme socialists in the Democratic Party. He said something interesting, that he said that it's winning elections for his side moving forward is going to be, quote, more difficult because the establishment will not underestimate us anymore. And he said the establishment will continue to undermine us, but they will not underestimate us, which I thought was interesting because it kind of gives you a peek behind the curtain into the mindset of these people that they know. I mean, I believe that they believe everything they're saying. I believe that they are really this crazy, but they also know that they're that crazy and have, at least the way I interpret this, is that they've taken advantage of that fact of people, looking at somebody like that and going, oh, they could never get in office. They could never win an election in the United States with that type of attitude, and underestimating them and maybe not showing up for primary elections or off-season elections and things like that. And that's how they've accumulated power. The way I interpret that, Stel, is him saying we've taken advantage of this, of people underestimating us. And that's part of the reason we've had such success, and they're not underestimating us anymore. And that could be bad for them. What do you make of that statement?
I have to agree with you that that type of statement is a snapshot of where they're coming from. And it makes me wonder how much of an influence the quote unquote midterm convention of the Republicans will affect the news cycle when that's going on for a few days. I think it's in Dallas, correct? I believe
I think
so.
so, yeah. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how much pushback there is when that convention's going on as they try to somehow move these important stories to the forefront of the news cycle, which is tough to do when
Yeah.
you've got a news cycle that's 99% against anything that conservatives are standing for.
Do you think
And
that?
we've got issues
Yeah.
across the board that are insanely 80 20 90 10 issues, including men playing in women's sports and boys and girls locker rooms, etc. All these
The
issues.
SAVE Act.
Yes, the SAVE Act being pushed to the side every time. What is John
Well,
Thune
speaking of
doing?
80-20 issues, speaking of 80-20 issues, having an ID to vote, that's pretty much, I mean, that's been proven to be an 80-20 issue. Did you see that? Speaking of New York, did you see AOC? I guess it was late last week, unintentionally become the best spokesperson for the SAVE Act when she was being interviewed, and she said what she thought was a bad thing when she said they're making it more difficult for you to vote. You are going to have to prove who you are just to vote. And she
Imagine that.
She said it like it was a bad thing, and all of these people on social media were like, "Thank you." You just did a great job of simplifying and expressing, our cause while she's out there. She thinks that that's some kind of bad thing that people are going to go. Oh, they want us to prove who we are to vote. Hello, to vote.
Well, she might have been going through a tough emotional time because she was just breaking up with her long time boyfriend from back in her college days. Riley Roberts, I believe, is his name. And then she's making the decision about freezing her eggs.
Oh, Lord.
The AOC's out there in left field, and I don't know how folks continue to support her. But stuff like this, like you mentioned, really makes you scratch your head because I'm not saying that anybody's personal life should be dominating the news cycle because it shouldn't. It's her private life. That's fine. She can do whatever she wants. But she and Riley Roberts were boyfriend girlfriend in college at Boston. I think she went to Boston College. Boston. I think she went to BU, Boston University, and then they kind of broke up, got back together, and I mean it's been over 15 years. They reconnected around 2015, if I remember correctly, and then they got engaged in 2022. Never got married, and now she's freezing her eggs and called off the marriage. Somebody like that who's making decisions like those would really make me hesitant to vote for her. So I hope people are paying attention in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get into Mondani stuff. Can you stick around for a quick break, and then we'll get into the Mondani stuff? Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. Let's do that. We're going to continue the conversation with STEL Bay, producer STEL PONTIKES. You're listening to Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
No, I can't help but to hear an exchanging of words. What a beautiful wedding. What a beautiful wedding, says a bridesmaid to a waiter.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo, and it's tough to pick, but my favorite sandwich at Capriotti's is the cheesesteak with a side of Cap's awesome fries. Visit Capriotti's now at 2 locations on Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
At Body of Health, we're a small but mighty family operation with big ambitions for your health. I'm Helene Tobler, and I'm jazzed about how our MRI-grade body composition analyzer is putting personalized health and wellness on steroids. It helps me and Dr. Tobler, that's my husband, refine the advice we give to help you feel better and live longer. Body of Health, trusted, discerning, affordable healthcare the way it ought to be. Learn more at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Gonna open up KLOSES Cabinet with our buddy Mark Close from KC95. Brought to you by Weber Chevrolet, and Skip Weber will be along with us as well. That's gonna be in a little less than 20 minutes from now at the top of the hour at 3 o'clock. Also in the 3 o'clock hour, we're gonna be joined in studio by the co-host and executive producer of the Randy Tobler Show every Saturday morning here on News Talk STL. Also, you hear him every morning, the producer of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Producer Jerome is going to be in studio with us in the 3 o'clock hour. He's also the director, not the producer, the director of Larry Connor's USA. He's a busy, busy man. He's going to join us in studio in the 3 o'clock hour. Right now, we continue the conversation with the great STEL PONTIKES, producer STEL Babe. And Stel, not Hassan Piker, Zorhan Mandani in New York. I got my crazy liberals mixed up there for just a second. Mandani made the announcement a few days ago that the New York Police Department would be accompanying his wife on her Middle East vacation to provide security to his wife during that trip. However, today, the New York Police Department itself came out and said, no, we're not. That's not our job. That's not what we do. And we're not going to be doing that. So stop saying it. The New York Police Department will not provide a security detail to Mayor Zorhan Mandani's wife during her upcoming vacation to 2 terror hotspots. What a great idea to take a vacation to not 1, but 2 terror hotspots in the world, despite the mayor's office claiming otherwise. Quote, the NYPD does not send officers to countries with level 4 travel advisories for discretionary reasons such as personal travel, said a police department spokesperson today. Mandani's wife is planning to travel to Syria and Lebanon in September, according to reports from multiple places, including the New York Post, is where I'm getting a lot of this. Fox News reporting on this as well. Both of those countries are on the State Department's do not travel list due to terrorism concerns. And yeah, Stella, as I said earlier, it's the New York Police Department. They are there to serve the people of New York, not to provide personal security for elected officials, especially on the world stage. Like, good for I agree with you. Good for them. What do you make of this? And then just the assumption, just the ego of Zorhan Mandani to go on, in front of reporters and just assume that he can just do that he can just tell the New York Police Department to, gather a group of your finest and send them on vacation with my wife. I mean, it just says a lot, doesn't it?
I think it does. And it's as though she's taking some type of lesson from our own squad member here, former squad member Cori Bush, who had questionable security practices going on when she was in office.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Great point, because also Cori Bush, like Zorhan Mondani, was one of the loudest defund the police voices 3 or 4 years ago. And so
Yeah, you're right about that.
ironic that both of them are so, keen on having police be their security after telling the world that, police are bad and need to go away. Ironic. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, either she can stay over there if she would like to, because she seems to have an affinity for traveling to that area of the world. She did that a few weeks ago, and so if that's where she would like to stay, I'm perfectly fine with that. But she seems to have a liking for going to these countries. She's not a lover of the USA. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'm being kind.
Yeah, I don't think her husband is either. A little bit more from the New York Police Department. New York PD Detectives Endowment Association President Scott Munro slammed the implication that New York City police detectives and officers would be accompanying the city's first lady to the Middle East in a statement saying, quote, "Our detectives put themselves in harm's way every day protecting New Yorkers. The DEA would never remain silent if our members were asked to travel to a dangerous, off-limits foreign country for anything other than a legitimate law enforcement or intelligence operation." So, well said by that side. And then, again, I think it's important to also remember the context of Mondani having a long history of trashing his own New York Police Department, the very department that he thought would be accompanying his wife on this trip to the Middle East. One example that's been brought back up in this story was a post that he made in 2020 where he said, quote, there is no negotiating with an institution this wicked and corrupt. Defund it, dismantle it, end the cycle of violence. That was the way that Zorhan Mondani characterized the New York Police Department in a 2020 post. Wicked and corrupt, defund it, dismantle it. And yet, he wants those officers protecting his wife, though. Gee.
How much further does he have to go before those folks start thinking about the possibility of having a recall of his election in New York City? That would be awesome if something like that could happen. I don't see it happening, but boy, if they could do a recall, I wonder how many people would stand in line to sign the petition to get that on the ballot and get him recalled and get him out of office. But in the meantime, you're right. They've got to deal with inane topics like this, which, as far as I'm concerned, they've got a future in New York City that is so bleak now because of who the folks that they've elected to put into office.
Yeah.
That I'm wondering how long it's going to take before there's some type of pushback on the streets of New York.
Well, I wonder that, and I think that's a great point, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer to that question is. I don't know if there is a majority of New Yorkers that would line up to vote if they had a chance to vote him out of office, because he won that election, and I'm trying to bring it up here because I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. We knew for weeks that it seemed pretty inevitable that he was going to win. So it wasn't like the Francesca Hong election that we were just talking about in that last segment, where it was 0.5%. He won. Here, I have it here. 2025 New York City mayoral election. He got nearly 51% of the vote, and Andrew Cuomo got 41%. So he won by almost 10 points. Curtis Sliwa got 7%, if you remember. Just to kind of put you in the time machine and remember that race. Curtis Sliwa was, making a little side noise and got a little bit of a, kind of playing the Ross Perot, having a little impact on the race there. But even with Curtis Sliwa's 7%, if all those people would have went to Andrew Cuomo, that still would not have been enough. Zoran Mondani won that race fairly comfortably. So I don't know. Are the voters in New York, have the voters in New York had their eyes opened? At least the ones that voted for him before? I don't know.
Well, getting stuff for free is awfully tempting.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And
so I'm sure they're thinking, socialism's not going to be that bad. Very few of those folks under 30 have any real concept of what living under a socialist government is like. And they don't understand how these other governments around the world have totally annihilated their populations when there's a socialistic or communist Marxist government that's running the place. And if that's going to happen in New York City, I hate to say it, but you guys voted for it. I guess you're going to get what you voted for.
Exactly. And I remember saying at the time that if there's one good thing about this, about Zoran Mondani winning that election in New York, is that it gives us a real world United States example of what that looks like. New York City, biggest city in the country, millions and millions of people, so huge, a huge part of the country that you can look at. You can't say, oh, well, that's just a tiny city somewhere in the middle of nowhere and, wouldn't be like, you can't use that as an example of the rest of the country. You can do that with New York, and you can see this is what they do. This is how they act. This is the agenda. And we've seen it. We've seen. I mean, he's destroying the city of New York. He's chasing out businesses. We joked earlier, but it's unfortunately it's a terrible thing about the rent. Landlords can't operate because the laws that he has put in are so anti property owner that it's nearly impossible to force people to pay rent in New York. He's bashed the police department, so, police officers don't want to, it's not a destination spot. They don't want to work, under Zoran Mondani. He's gleefully enacting more and more taxes on the quote-unquote rich and businesses, which is chasing all the jobs out. Yeah.
Yep, they're leaving.
He's destroying the city of New York, and I hope that, people around the country are watching, because it does, if nothing else, it gives us a real-world example right here in the United States of, so when we say, this is what they will do, and then they can, play the hand of like, no, we wouldn't, it's not good, they're lying. No, we can point to it. This is exactly what that mindset and that agenda leads to, and that should be one of the go-tos for Republicans in this midterm election and in future elections, to just point your finger at New York and say, do you want that? Because that's what you'll get if you elect
And meanwhile, states like Florida, especially around Miami, states like Texas, especially around Dallas, Tennessee, especially around Nashville, all these states are reaping the benefit of companies and corporations leaving New York City and New York State because of this whole issue of squeezing out every penny that they can from companies that are successful.
Yep, absolutely. Missouri could have been at the top of that list too, but we decided to vote no on 4 and 5. But don't get me started on that. One last one here, Stel, talking to producer Stel Pontikes. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I pulled it back up here, and just to see it again, and it's still up there, and it's on the Fox News website. Headline: President Trump finally addresses if he'll seek a third term in the White House. It's the second to top story on the Fox News website right now. Stel, have I missed a conversation? Has there been all this buzz and have we been waiting for Trump? Trump finally addresses if he'll seek a third term in the White House. Guess what? He's not going to, because he can't. So, what are we talking about? Is this a manufactured story? What is this?
I've seen some photos show up here and there of Trump hats that say Trump 2028.
Well, I'm sure there's
And
I'm sure there's some
stumped.
MAGA people that would love that. but has Trump been out there? I know he did an interview about a year ago with Kristen Welker where he said that there were paths forward if somebody would run for a third. But like the way that that's written, he finally addresses it, makes it sound like this has been like a thing. Like this is a conversation that's been going on. He was asked by a reporter and he said no. He said, no, he said, everybody wants me to do it, but the law is very strong. You know, it's in the Constitution. I can't run for a third. I mean, duh.
I think he's just trolling Democrats. I think that's what he loves to do. So he's living rent-free in Democrats' heads. And as long as that's floating out there, I think he's more than willing to continue to stoke that flame.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of Fox News, if I can just digress for a second.
Yeah, you got 1 minute. Go ahead.
I heard earlier that John Roberts, one of the reporters who I like at Fox News, developed pericarditis after his third COVID shot, and then he got his fourth shot, and now he's suffering with trying to fight against pericarditis, which showed up thanks to the jab. So our prayers are with John Roberts, who's, I think, a pretty good reporter on the Fox News side. But I was sad to see that this morning.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could hold some people to account for their lies and what they did to the country during the pandemic, like Anthony Fauci?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't
yes,
that be
it
nice?
would.
Yeah. Still, babe, well, you know, maybe one day we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep trying. We'll do everything we can. Yeah, Anthony Fauci and others deserve to be in jail or held to account in some way for what they did during the pandemic. Stell, babe,
One other
producer
quick
Stell.
White House note, by the way, Tony, one other note, Caroline Leavitt is leaving her job as press secretary.
Oh, yeah, interesting. We're going to keep an eye on that as well. Stell, thanks for everything, buddy. We'll talk to you again real soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
KLOSES Cabinet next.
Hey everyone, this is Jesse from Reach Reproductive Health, and I need you to mark your calendar because on October 22nd, it's going to be a big night in St. Louis. It's going to be our second annual Reach Gala, and it's happening at the factory. Incredible live music, powerful speakers, a night to celebrate life, and to support the Reach mission. Stay tuned to find out who's taking the stage. I promise you won't want to miss it. Registration is open right now at outreachforlife.org/gala.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here, and for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service. From 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products, 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
There's always something to celebrate in Augusta, Missouri, just 1 hour from St. Louis. Every season brings festivals and special events you won't want to miss. Hop the free trolley to 10 wineries in America's first wine district. Bike the Katy Trail and explore historic small-town charm. Make Augusta your next getaway. Find events and cozy B&Bs at visitaugusta-chamber.org.
Coming soon, the return of the Defiance Roadhouse. Located on Highway 94 along the Missouri River, this long-standing fixture is known for its biker-friendly atmosphere, live music, and decades as a beloved community gathering place. Rev your engines and stand by for the grand opening, early September. The Roadhouse is back.
Fall means the return of Mizzou football. And this year promises another great season of SEC action. There's no better place to catch every game than Harpo's in Chesterfield. With its excellent sports bar atmosphere and the best patio in West County, Harpo's is your Tiger headquarters. Harpo's, STL.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump says White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will be leaving the administration at the end of the month to spend time with her young family. Leavitt is the youngest person in history to hold the role. She also served as a press aide during the president's first term and has been one of the most vocal advocates of his Make America Great Again movement. The cleanup continues today after an historic storm tore across northwest Indiana. The state's Department of Homeland Security Chief Jonathan Whitman says at least one person lost their life.
Sadly, the 4-year-old died in Jennings County. That was a tree that fell on their home. And we have reports of various levels of injuries across the state. And again, 2 other fatalities that may be weather-related. We're working on confirming those.
President Trump says yes, he did slip away from Air Force One after a trip last month in Turkey because the Secret Service and military had safety concerns.
I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
A look now at one of the closest watch races in Wisconsin's primary yesterday, where polls taken ahead of time turned out not to be very correct.
Once again, the polls were really wrong. Ahead of the Wisconsin primary, Francesca Hong was reportedly ahead by double digits, but she ends up losing to Milwaukee County executive moderate David Crowley by a percentage point. Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did not endorse her after videos surfaced of Hong saying she hates holidays, including Thanksgiving, and then backtracked saying it was her favorite holiday.
And that is Laura Winters reporting. At the closing bell on Wall Street, the Dow was up just about 2 points, and NASDAQ up by more than 220. You'll find more of these stories at townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a low risk for an isolated storm this evening. Another chance for an isolated storm on Thursday as well, and another hot day. The First Alert weather days for intense heat and humidity continue. The low 80 Thursday morning, and then a high of 96. Heat index to 106. Clouds and maybe a storm could make it a little cooler, but I wouldn't count on it. Again, the rain chance only about 20%. Friday looks dry and hot, partly cloudy with a high of 98 and a heat index to 106. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime,
everywhere.
Anywhere.
Oh, yeah, one of the most recognizable, most famous guitar riffs of all time. Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple, opening up Closest Cabinet this week on Colombo and Company. Closest Cabinet featuring Mark Close from KC95. Marker, are you there?
I am, my friend.
And the sponsor of Closest Cabinet is Weber Chevrolet, and I believe we also have Skip Weber on the line with Skip. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm here.
So, starting with Deep Purple, because news out today Skip, I want to get your thoughts on this first. Richie Blackmore is set to step on stage with Deep Purple for the first time in more than 3 decades, 33 years. The guitarist has confirmed that he'll make a surprise appearance. I don't think is that how surprises work, Skip? He'll make a surprise appearance during the band's headlining show at the Northwell at Jones Beach Theater in New York tonight. He made this announcement, I think, yesterday. So for the first time in 33 years, Richie Blackmore back on stage with Deep Purple. Skip, what do you think?
Well, it's pretty a milestone thing there. I mean, he wasn't the only person in the classic lineup, but I mean, he was the glue. They really haven't had a lot of good music since. I mean, they've had a lot of albums, and some of it's good stuff, you know, with Ian Gillan and John Lord and so on. But when they had Richie Blackmore, when they first came out, they were really, really good. And they could have probably become more famous if he'd have stayed around. He got bored. He formed Rainbow. Rainbow was awesome for a while, and then did his own stuff. So, I mean, you never know. But I like this kind of stuff. You know, I don't know how close of friends he stayed with them, you know, whether they got totally estranged. But at one point, they were all friends. That's what, you know, that's how it works. I mean, that's why they made the band. They were at least some sort of friend. And so getting back together, and if I was anywhere near that, I'd go listen to it just to hear him play, you know, Smoke on the Water, Highway Star, A Woman from Tokyo, Hush, all those, you know, great classic early 70s Deep Purple songs.
Absolutely. Mark, Blackmore's 81 years old. He joked that it was supposed to be a secret. It was supposed to be a surprise before the news got out, and then he started talking about it publicly. He last performed with Deep Purple in 1993, which it also messes with my brain that 1993 was 33 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think about Richie Blackmore? And yeah, at 81 years old, to Skip's point, if you can go see that, you know, it would be a destination for a lot of rock and roll fans, because at 81 years old, it's you know, probably the last time that he'll be on stage with Deep Purple. What do you think, Mark?
Well, for once, you know, when these bands talk about a farewell tour, they ain't kidding around. I mean, even if they want to come back, they ain't going to be on the planet. That, you know, when you think about it, because everybody is, you know, the Who's retired 88 times. You know, everybody's gone out and come back. With Deep Purple, yeah, the only original member is their drummer, Ian Pace, and he formed in '68. And their first big hit, Hush, was written by Joe South. It wasn't even written by anybody in the band. And then the second coming, Ian Pace, Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, they called that the Mark II lineup. And then Richie, you know, was coming and going. So I'm a Skip. Anytime you can see somebody coming back, hopefully with Richie back again. And, you know, people kind of lose track of the fact that when you're in a band, and a big band, and you tour, you go out on a tour, you live with these guys for, hell, man, a year and a half, 2 years, you come back, you go back in the studio, you live with the guys, you live with them more than you do with your family. So you can see where nerves get frayed. Sure. You got a lot of big personalities, you got a lot of talent going in different directions. So when you get a band that stays together intact for that many years, and probably the record for that until he died, Dusty died, might have been ZZ Top, that all three of those guys have been in that band for that many years.
Back when I had to sit in the studio with you every day on the Glover, you know, like, yeah, I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't even look at you anymore, so I get it.
Well, we're still not friends, so I mean, that doesn't really make a difference, but back, yeah, being able to be with somebody that long, so I'm with Skip, man. Any 81 years old, seeing somebody come out, if they can hold up their end of that, and he's not going to come out and embarrass himself. So
no.
He'll bring it.
All he has to do is that guitar riff.
Exactly.
I mean, it'll be a historic moment. And Skip, to your point, and kind of what was Mark was just saying there too, though, like we're used to, usually when a guy hasn't been on stage with his with his original band and decades, there's always some, and maybe there is some, maybe there is a story there that I'm not aware of, but, usually it's a very public dispute and people don't like each other. Literally, this is what he said. When he was talking about this, Richie Blackmore said that he reached out to Ian Gillan and asked whether he could jump on stage for one song for old time's sake, his words, quote, old time's sake, and he said that Gillan and the rest of the band gave him the thumbs up. That just sounds like a normal, easy conversation. Like that, that there's not really anything there. And then just to give a little more context here, Skip, I want to get your thoughts on this too. He was on Instagram Live yesterday. So this concert's tonight. He was on Instagram Live yesterday doing like a live, some kind of live stream with his wife. Richie Blackmore was with his wife, Candace. And he said during that live stream, quote, "There's something we wanted to mention about tomorrow night. Well, it's a secret, and I don't want anyone to know," as he's on live stream. "Well, it's a secret, and I don't want anybody to know, but I'm probably going to get up and do an encore with the band, Deep Purple. But you can't tell anybody, and I know this is going to be a kept secret. And will it? I suppose so." So kind of funny, but again, Skip, like this doesn't sound like a guy who's like had tensions and drama with his band for years. It just kind of sounds like there was a perfect storm of an opportunity for him to jump up on stage and let's go.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think it was more him, to be honest with you. He was a little bit bored. And from what I remember, and Mark could correct me, I think he wanted to do a solo album. He was always extremely talented guitar player, and sometimes those guys feel like they get overshadowed. I mean, I'm not really able to play all my solos and stuff like that, and we're playing this popular songs and all this, and his going solo actually morphed into putting together the first iteration of Rainbow was Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, and all he did was get who's the great singer that passed away?
James Dio.
Yeah, you got Dio to sing for him, and that became Rainbow. But anyway, I don't think it was because, hey man, you guys always eat the biggest bite of the pizza, and I hate you, and all these little petty things that drive these riffs. Or you slept with my girlfriend and whatever. I think he just did that and naturally left, and then he just wanted to do something different at all times and evolve and change, which I think, I mean, that happened in like 1975. So obviously he's played with them since. It wasn't like we'll never talk to you again if the most recent time has been 93.
93.
I think he came back and actually recorded an album or two. I don't think it's they hate him or he hates them or any hard feelings. I mean, they all made hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, in their own different paths. So I think it's just interesting. I think that they were welcoming as soon as he called. They said, "Yeah, sure, come on." I don't think anybody thought twice.
Okay, quick game. Not this typical what is the best ever, because that's such an impossible thing to do with anything, guitar players, singers, sports, best quarterback of all time. Not that, but that Smoke on the Water guitar riff is definitely at the top tier. It's, if there was a list of the greatest, most memorable guitar riffs of all time, Smoke on the Water is on there. Skip, let's start with you. What are other, in your opinion, guitar riffs, pieces of a song that are at that level, that are, just instantly memorable, everybody knows? What comes to mind for you when you think of that?
The thing about it is that not only is it instantly memorable, it's very easy to duplicate. So anybody just fiddling around with the guitar learns it.
Everybody who's picking up a guitar for the first time, they can get that down and feel like a rock star.
I could say, the end of Sultans of Swings, by Dire Straits, the end of Hotel California, those great duets, those great riffs. But you know, I mean, you have to be a virtuoso to play them.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Smoke on the Water, you know, the beginning of Carry On My Wayward Son, you know, the beginning of Boston, More Than a Feeling, very memorable.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit softer. Barracuda.
Yeah. Those are good ones.
Those things stand out, and they're all very easy to learn and play. Even though they weren't simple guitar players, they were all very good guitar players playing it. But you can duplicate them, and that kind of is a little bit why Smoke in the Water is so popular.
Yeah,
everybody plays it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them that pops to mind for me, and it's a similar story, is the beginning of "Sweet Child of Mine," and where Slash the beginning of "Sweet Child of Mine" was a finger exercise. Yep. Was one of Slash's finger exercises to warm up. And it becomes, you know, like you said, here's another example of an amazing guitar player who's got other solos and examples of just, you know, his crazy ability. But the beginning of Sweet Child of Mine that is so iconic is just, it was practice. You know, it was a way for him to practice. So that's one that pops to mind for me. And I think, you know, kind of fits the same parameters as Smoke on the Water. What about you, Marker? What songs or specific, you know, guitar riffs or moment in a song pops into your mind when you think of that level of like that beginning of Smoke on the Water?
You know, the first one it comes to mind is Layla, Derek and the Dominoes.
Oh yeah.
He hits that opening. You know, I mean, you know where you're going immediately.
That's a good one.
You know, Freebird by Skinnerd. Where the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It may not be in the beginning, but that's when they just turn it on the hyperdrive, and everybody loses their friggin' mind at that point. So there's little riffs like that just kind of pop up, and you know, like I said, it's like name that tune and one or two, and you know what it is.
Yeah,
you know, Sweet Home Alabama.
That's a good one.
Everybody knows what that is. So you hear them enough and they become memorable. No doubt about it.
Yeah, Sweet Child of Mine, like I said, for me, Voodoo Child.
Yeah.
The beginning of Voodoo Child is another one, you know, like just instantly recognizable. But pretty cool stuff tonight. Richie Blackmore going to join Deep Purple on stage. He says for just one song, I think during the encore is the plan. So if you're listening in New York or wherever this concert is tonight, you know, if you're listening on the stream, you don't even have to show up until, you know, you're not gonna miss anything until the encore. You could be late. You're not gonna miss Smoke on the Water. They're not gonna play it early. They're gonna save it for Richie. Almost, you know, I think you can make a pretty safe bet with that. Talking to Mark Close from KC95, Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet, closest cabinet here on Colombo and Company. Here's an interesting little survey, and one where I have to question the honesty of the people who participated. A recent survey was done asking people if you're at a store and the cashier's ringing you up and they forget an item and you put it in the bag without ringing it up and you notice it and you're, you know, going to get it for free, do you say something or not? And according to this survey, 33% of people say that they would not alert the cashier if that were to happen. I believe that number is larger than 30%. But nobody wants to say it. And I also think that there is, you know, like that there's probably some context there as well. You know, like sometimes maybe you would and sometimes maybe you won't, and it's not necessarily black and white on every single time. But Mark, what say you? You notice that the cashier doesn't ring up something as they're loading your stuff in the bag? Do you call it out or do you just let it go?
Well, going back to context, if she throws in a roll of lifesavers and doesn't hit it, you know, I'm like, oh, hey, you forgot lifesavers. If she misses the tomahawk chop at $120, then I may look the other way. I'll be honest about it. So,
if you're buying 2 cars from Weber Chevrolet and they only ring you up for one, you're not going to mention.
Oh no, because I would never do that to my friends. Yeah. No.
Skip, what do you say? You calling it out? You
Always.
or not? Yeah.
I will always call it out, and
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. Believe me, because I have plenty of flaws. But I'm in the industry where mistakes get made, and so it's the kind of thing. I just hope that people would do it back to me if one of my guys or cashiers or finance guys makes a mistake or any kind of error on tabulating something. So I do it back, because otherwise you're a hypocrite, man. If you don't want, if you say, okay, I'll eat it if I make a mistake, which I will. People don't always own up to it themselves, but I gotta believe that what you do, what goes around comes around. So
yeah.
I would, like I said, I don't know, it's fun. I know it's fun to joke about it, but even with a lifesaver or something like that, those are the easiest ones to say. To say, hey, you forgot this, because now it's not like, oh, I could have got away with a 45-cent, whatever. But no, that's just a good thing to do. And I don't, Tony, I don't know if it's that higher. It might be, but
I think it's probably higher.
Like, depends. It probably is, but I think the situational thing is, I think most people, like if you go to McDonald's and they forget a fries, I think people would say, hey, what about these fries? Because then they're only paying an additional $2 or whatever. I think a lot of that comes into it. Hey, I had 42 items at some, I'm making a major haul at Sam's or something like that, and you notice that there's a $30 something or other. Maybe they do say, well, they make enough money, I'll just let it slide.
Well, here's another here. As you look deeper in this, here's more proof, to me at least, that they're lying about that, because it says that out of those 33% who said that they would say nothing about it, they say that only 12% of that group say they feel happy about it, that they are embarrassed or feel guilty. 40% of them said they feel guilty. 30% said they feel embarrassed. And only 12% said that they feel happy. No, that's not. You wouldn't. You wouldn't do it if you didn't feel happy about it.
Yeah, exactly.
33%.
What are you afraid to do it?
Exactly.
To do it
So
now?
here's another one.
Fear.
So
here's out of fear. I
yeah.
didn't do it out of
right. Here's another one in the same survey. So 33% people said they wouldn't call it out if a cashier forgot it. 37%, and I've definitely done this for real. Like, not like, trying to be, I forgot. Like, accidentally left the store, like, especially at a self-checkout. Like left the store without paying for something. Like, maybe, like, you're scanning the things, and you're just kind of in autopilot, and it doesn't beep or whatever, and you don't notice, and it goes in the bag. Like, I've gotten home and noticed, like, oh, I went to look, like at Pokemon cards is a perfect example, because they're little and you're kind of going really fast. And my son collects Pokemon cards, and, and they jack up the price. The Pokemon, it's a whole nother thing. Like, Pokemon cards are supposed to cost $4 a pack, and some places sell them for $10 a pack. So, I mean, it's just out of control, but that's a whole nother story. So, like, I've gone back to check and been like, how much were they charging for those Pokemon cards? And then you realize, oh, we bought 3 packs and only paid for 2 of them. We missed something there. So 37% people have said that they've accidentally done that. What's the number here? Well, less than half of those people that have had that happen to, less than half will go back into the store and say, hey, I accidentally didn't pay for this when I rang my stuff up. So would you? So the question is, if you were in a self-checkout situation and left and later on realized you didn't pay for something, Mark, are you going back to the store? I'm not going back to the store. Unless it was like something egregious, like a vacuum cleaner. Unless it was. Like, I'm not driving back up to Target to pay to say, hey, I accidentally got a five. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So judge me if you want to, but I'm not going. I'm with Skip. I'm almost always calling out if I do catch them, but I'm not. My human decency, I guess, runs out if I'm already home. What do you, Mark? You go. If you realize you got something, you going back into the store, or are you just going, oh well, missed that one?
It's exactly. It's Greek to dollar, the value of your time. If somebody missed a $1.25 item, no, I'm not going to turn around back and hell, man, I don't even know. What do you go back and then ring it again and then pay for it another? So yeah, if something, a value like that, and usually they're pretty. I mean, you can count your items and see them coming up on the self-cashier gizmo, and you got bought 10, paying for 10, I'm on my way home. That's easy enough to do and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you said, it's $1 pack of Pokemon cards. I ain't driving 10 miles back to return them. No.
Skip, what about you? You probably are, aren't you? You're going back, aren't you?
Well, it is. Well, I would say yes, but there is a limit. I mean, if I'm in the parking lot and I notice it, I'm going back.
Yeah,
right.
If I've driven 10 miles, no. I mean,
right.
If it's big enough, I might call them and try to pay for it or something, but I wouldn't, probably go back. It's once again, mistakes happen. And I understand, and I hope people will be own up to me when I'd be the one that's getting burned by the mistake. But now you get further and further away, it's tough. And once again, Mark also said, it's a pack of gum. Probably even go back if it's in the parking lot. But that radius of far away from the store gets a little bit shorter for the least amount.
I don't think, at least, when it's happened to me, I don't think you realize it in the parking lot. Like, you're not usually taking that in. You're not checking to make sure.
Right.
Who checks to make sure you paid for everything? Like, that's not a normal.
Yeah.
It's normally something that you wouldn't catch until you're at home, and only then if you are even looking. Like, you may have done it and not even realize it and never known it, because. Right. But, I know that I've
like I said, I try to put myself in their shoes and go, man, I'd hate to have this $40 mistake on my deal. Cashier's drawer doesn't balance, so they got to put it in.
Ooh,
that kind of thing. So
I
don't know. It's just once again, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I can tell you, there was a certain age when my parents would drop me and friends off at Six Flags, and we tried to shoplift so much stuff it was awful.
Right, yeah.
You got to grow out of that, and so maybe my conscience is making me atone for that even all these years later. But,
well, I think the most common place for that to happen is at the self-checkout, where there's not a cashier there to count the drawer or to be watching all over that stuff. And I know, I've read reports about especially at stores like Target, the department stores, the big, department stores that have so many. At my Target, it's rare to see two lines with a cashier open.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one cashier line, and then everything else is self-checkout. It's so much to the self-checkout. And, they, story after story, year after year, you read the various, loss reports, and a lot of it, almost all of it comes from the self-checkout, and people either not ringing up everything or, scanning a different item that's cheaper and then putting the more expensive item in their bag or whatever. But I guess it still works out in the math.
I think
it's
it
more
happens
profitable.
when you have a lot of stuff. I think it happens when you have a lot of stuff and you're in a hurry.
Yeah,
where the cashier's in a hurry, or you're beeping,
which is my life always. A lot of stuff and in a hurry.
Yeah,
that's every day. Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. But I guess it's still more worth it to those companies to have the bigger self-checkout areas than put more cashiers in, even though that's where a lot of that stuff happens. Before we wrap up Close's Cabinet this week, Mark, what is happening with KC95? What's happening with the band? What do we need to let folks know about any big events coming up?
Well, the Close Quarters World Tour continues. Where we're at, baby, worldwide.
And just for the context of this conversation, the world borders are from about Belleville, Illinois to Wentzville, Missouri.
That is correct.
That is
Mighty
the
big world.
Yeah, that's the entirety of the world. So just so everybody knows. Go ahead, Mark.
Exactly. And we are going beyond the
Oh,
borders of
baby.
Belleville.
Yeah.
We will be in Freeburg, Illinois on Friday night. It is the big Freeburg homecoming, and they've got fried fish, and they got rides, and they got games, and we're playing.
They got rock and roll now.
Oh, they got it all, baby. And then on Saturday, they got a parade. These people in Freeburg, they know how to throw a party.
They know how to live.
We'll be there.
They know how to live in Freeburg.
Friday night from 7 to 11, free cover. They come on over and bring a lawn chair and hang out. We're going to be partying with all our buds and friends in Freeburg, Illinois.
And
hey, Mark, I got an idea for you.
Oh, love it.
Here's what you do. Your band, you guys play Freebird, but you sing it as Freeburg.
Oh.
Yes. And there will be people in the audience.
That'll be a hit.
It is an unwritten law
Oh.
in every state in this country that if you play live music, somebody in the audience must yell out, play
some
Freebird.
standard.
I've never been to
Right.
a gig yet where
Oh.
it's not happening.
Skip is onto something there.
But
Yeah.
it's Fly High, my Freeburg.
Oh.
Freeburg, yeah.
Oh, and you know
Yeah.
some drunk guy, like, they're, wow! You're going to hear that.
They will love
and
it.
they're going to
They
pop.
will
You're
love
onto
it.
something there. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart, Skip. And Skip, we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week at the beginning of August, but yeah, we're now into the month of August. We're getting towards the end of summer here in 2026, which is just a crazy thing to think how fast this year has flown by. But what's the latest at Weber?
You know, here's the thing. Every year we talk about August is back to school, you know, and we said we're not going to do that this year. Let's come up with something.
We're not going back to school?
You know, well, we are going back to school.
Oh,
but we're not going to say we're selling cars because of back to school. I mean, most people going to school, they're not buying anyway. You know, that's not who the buys pays for the car. You know, you got Memorial Day in May. You got 4th of July in July. You got President's Day in February. We said Labor Day is coming first, right after August is over. We're having a Labor Day sale all August long into Labor Day. Labor Day savings. We're going to try to set a record.
Mark doesn't care about your Labor Day sale.
We're going to try to set a record for most cars ever sold in August.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And
Hey,
if you go
Skip?
to our websites, you will see. If you go to our websites, you will see. It's going to be great.
I can promise you right here on the air that the Colombo family will be part of that Labor Day sale because in the first week of September, our middle daughter Maggie turns 16. So
there you go.
It's car time.
All right.
Whether we want to buy one or not, it's car time in the Colombo household. So I'm very excited to hear that news about the August long Labor Day sale because we'll definitely be taking advantage of that. And so I'll be in touch. We'll be looking for something
very cool,
small and easy to drive.
We will take very good care of you.
We're a 16-year-old that's got both my wife and I very nervous about turning loose on the roads, but we're working on it almost every night, and we're getting much better. But we'll be part of that for sure. Skip Weber, really appreciate your time and for everything supporting Closest Cabinet here on Colombo Company. Thanks, Skip. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy.
No problem. Thanks. Take care.
And Mark already ditched on us, but a little Closest Cabinet there. Here on Colombo and Company. Going to dive back into the news of the day. We're going to get you updated on the latest coming out of Iran. We're also going to be joined in about 10 minutes. We'll be joined live in studio by producer Jerome from Mike Ferguson in the Morning and the Randy Tobler Show and Larry Connors USA. Jerome will be with us again in about 10 minutes. You're listening to Colombo and Company here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it, too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary with Craig Gutfeld. Next.
You're probably listening to this in your car, so let me ask you. Would you drive without insurance? Of course not. So why is your retirement portfolio unprotected? Gold is portfolio insurance. It helps de-risk your savings when markets get unpredictable. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands of Americans do exactly that, with no high-pressure sales and thousands of 5-star reviews. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making any investment decisions.
Here's Greg Gutfeld.
The Dems have suffered from years of cowardice. They've refused to draw a line in the sand and left themselves dependent upon the very faction it's now trying to contain. To save the party, they need to publicly disagree with the DSA on the border, on trans, and crime. Yet their party's culture, the incentives, the risk aversion makes that impossible. They treated the DSA like a junior partner rather than a rival ideology, and now they're paying the price. The Democrat Party made the mistake of adopting the left's language on everything. You know, the border, abolishing ICE, gender ideology, you can go on and on and on with those phrases, crime, defunding the police. That created a vacuum for this organized left that had the energy and the moral fervor to fill, which wasn't there with the Democrats.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Mark your calendar for the annual Leadership for America Dinner 2026, Friday, September 25th at the St. Charles Convention Center Grand Ballroom. Join News Talk STL for an unforgettable evening featuring keynote speaker Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who exposed the alleged fraud in Minneapolis, plus additional speakers and guests. Dinner's included, so come hungry for great food and bold ideas. For tickets and more information, visit newstalkstl.com.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
On the next, Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. This month, 1934, the first prisoners arrived at Alcatraz.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.994.1 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Mark Close from KC95, Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet for joining us in that last segment. Great stuff as always from those guys. In the 2 o'clock hour today, we talked to STEL Babe, producer STEL PONTIKES. We're going to talk to producer Jerome from Mike Ferguson in the Morning and the Randy Tobler Show and Larry Connors USA. Talk about a busy guy. Jerome's going to pop in with us here in just a few minutes. I want to remind you that if you never want to miss any of the great conversations that we have here on the show, make sure you are subscribed to our podcast. We put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. We put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you go to get, wherever you get podcasts from, wherever you listen to podcasts at, on that platform, subscribe to Colombo Company, and you'll never miss anything that happens here every single day. I want to dig in when we get Jerome in the studio. One of the things that I want to look at a little deeper is what is happening with Iran. Specifically this week, with, I touched on this earlier in the show, and I touched on this, yesterday and Monday. This week has seemed to be a, I don't know, there's a little bit of a change in attitude and aggression, maybe is a better way to put it, out of Iran. They've been talking trash this whole time, but they have seemed to have taken the trash talk up to a new level this week with, as I mentioned earlier, Monday, they released 6 demands of U.S. behavior correction that must be met by President Trump if he expects them to continue to talk about opening the Strait of Hormuz. And then that was on Monday. And then yesterday, Iran put out a demand of concessions from the United States. So very bold. And I don't like the path that we're on and the way that they have ratcheted up their tough talk on the world stage here recently, especially as we get closer and closer to the midterm elections and how important that is going to be for the next 2 years, the final 2 years of the Trump presidency. It's a big difference if the Republicans hold on to the House and Senate, or if they don't. That is 2 different, very different years. 2 very different years. Whether or not the Republicans are able to hold on to those majorities or not. So there's a lot on the line in the midterm elections, and the president and the Republicans have, some very strong, legitimate successes that they can point to and, to make their case and to show, what they've been able to get done. But Iran especially, and there's a few others that are massive frustrations that I feel like, jeopardize the momentum that the Republicans or the Trump administration could have heading into the midterms if something is not corrected. So definitely want to dig deeper into that as we get Jerome in here in just a moment. I want to dig into that conversation. Also, we mentioned this with STEL earlier, but in case you missed the news, the president has announced that Caroline Leavitt will be leaving as White House press secretary, leaving that role, and will become, his words, an outside advisor to the president and to the White House. President Trump announcing the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt will leave her role at the end of the month to spend more time with her family. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well as we roll through the afternoon. Producer Jerome joins us live in studio here on Colombo and Company next.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
I've been sleeping here instead. I've been sleeping in my bed. I've been sleeping in my bed.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I found a new place to dwell. Well, it's down at the end of Lonely Street, that heartbreak hotel where I'll be just so lonely, baby. Well, I'm so lonely.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. About 15 minutes before we hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and now also joining us in studio is the executive producer and co-host of the Randy Tobler Show every Saturday morning here on News Talk STL, the executive producer of Mike Ferguson in the morning every weekday here on News Talk STL, and not the producer, the director of Larry Connor's USA. Yes. Producer Jerome is in studio with us, putting in a little overtime. Really appreciate it. We had a great talk. Was that last week? Was that Monday?
Yeah, that was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, we got to do this more often. So I really appreciate you you popping by today. So I wanted to talk about Iran a little bit. But first, this news just broke a little earlier this afternoon. When we were talking to STEL earlier, he mentioned it, but we hadn't had a chance to really read any of the reports. The president today announced that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will be leaving her role at the end of the month to spend more time with her family. He said that she will be his words, an outside advisor to the White House and to the president moving forward. The role of press secretary has become such a important and really a newsworthy position when you look back at, some of the, like during the Biden administration with people like Jen Psaki and KJP, the circus that went on, at those press briefings. And then with Trump, with this, second time around with Caroline Leavitt, who's been pretty, really solid, and people like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who really became a star on the political stage thanks to her time during the first Trump administration in that press secretary role. Do you think this has any big impact on the White House, and how good of a job, looking back, would you say Caroline Leavitt did in her position?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, under the Biden administration, it's a huge improvement. There's no doubt. Yeah. I don't think you could really get much lower than what we just got out of a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, this is the not the face of the administration, but this is the person that communicates on their behalf. So if you do a really good job, then it makes people feel more, I guess, confident or have a little bit more trust in government. And if you do a terrible job like the last administration, you wonder what the heck's going on and how to get the circus. So I don't know that it might be the most important role to have the right person in charge of. I think
there's more critical roles in government.
Yeah, it's not like they're replacing Pam Bondi again or something, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do really respect her choice to focus and prioritize on her family life and to make sure that she's there during the formative years and stuff like that. Now, in terms of who would be a good replacement,
that'll be interesting.
That's going to be interesting to see who they get for that one.
With Caroline Leavitt, she was not really a known entity. There will be the people, I'm sure there'll be some, reporters or other, members of the media that will be bantered about his names. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's somebody sort of plucked from obscurity again with Caroline.
If memes are any indication, it might be Marco Rubio finding out he has to be the new press secretary. So
yeah. Does the White House know that you are the executive producer of 2 different major market shows and the director of a third? Because I feel like that resume puts you in line.
Will you give me your letter of recommendation?
I will. I will certainly.
Hey, it might be producer Drew then.
Yeah. There you go. I'll give you. I will give you a letter of recommendation if you promise to hire me as the assistant press secretary when you get the job.
Yes.
There we go.
Absolutely.
There you go. Little trade off.
Little nepotism, right?
Yeah, you know it, baby. So I mentioned this earlier, and we have like 5-6 minutes left with Jerome here, and that's a long time, but we need 5-6 hours if we want to really dig into all of the issues with the Iran situation and what's been handled properly, what has not been handled properly. But this week, I mentioned this a moment ago, and I want to put this whole conversation to the backdrop in the context of its impact on the midterm elections. This week, we saw the president, the Trump administration, back off again from what was more of a military approach last week, and prior to that, kind of back to this just negotiation where we just get these reports every day of we're 48 hours away and we've got another good round of talks, which just seem to absolutely go nowhere. But on top of that, moving kind of back to that strategy, which is very frustrating for me, I think more than ever, Iran has started to talk trash on the world stage.
Yep.
And they've been doing it all along. But something about this week, on Monday, releasing their 6 demands for behavior correction, their words, for the Trump administration, if they want to reopen, they said, if you want to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, 6 demands. Yesterday, they, demanded concessions be paid to them. As the United States has backed off a little bit here this week, Iran has taken it to a new level, and I think it's a terrible look. And it's not good for the momentum heading into the midterm.
It has definitely, I think, delegitimized a lot of what we're being told or what we should believe coming out of what we're being told about the Iran situation right now. I hate to say that I like anything about a regime like this that funds proxy terrorist groups that kill people, but the Lego memes mocking Trump after we allegedly bombed him again. I've been seeing a term called TACO, TACO, which means Trump always chickens out when it comes to and that's being spread. So I don't think I think when you have consistently month after month, it's almost like a weekly or daily occurrence of being told just how devastated their country is, how great we are, how strong we are, but we don't see any progress one way or another, and we're still spending billions of dollars to try to get this strait situation sorted out, which was not an issue beforehand. I think a lot of people that are more like me, who are very much more non-interventionist, are looking at this and saying, this just seems like a horse and pony show. It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon where they keep pulling the rug and pulling one over on the other player.
And if I've mentioned this a couple times, and I've gotten some pushback on this, but I think it's an apples to apples and more than a fair comparison. If Joe Biden was in the White House or Barack Obama was in the White House, and a country like Iran went on the world stage and released 6 demands of behavior correction for the United States, we would be all over the president. We would be all over Joe Biden or Barack Obama, calling them weak and feckless on the world stage for allowing that, even if they're not doing, even if the Trump administration, I don't think, is bending to these demands, but just the fact that they're allowing them to get away with it. Yes.
So, because you mentioned Obama, how much flack did Obama get for his house full of cash deal?
Right.
If the motive of operandum that had been signed, if that had actually stuck and followed through, we gave them that same deal and more. And yet we're saying, well, that's to show how much we've dominated them, is we're going to lift the sanctions from them. We're going to invest in the country. But believe me, we won. So I do think, at least in my circle of the general right-wing people I hang out with, especially the left, because I love gloating over this because I don't realize how dumb it is to gloat against ourselves. But a lot of the people that were very much get on the MAGA train, get on the Trump train, come on, Jerome, join us. This is going to be great. Every single one of them says, I can't believe that I supported this. What are we even doing over there?
Yeah.
We voted for no new wars, not go play military operation, not technically a war, but a war in the Middle East.
Yeah, and let's nip it in the bud. Let's
declare victory and get out of there.
Yeah, let's wipe them out.
Help. We have allies in that region. Why don't we set up some sort of agreement with them where you guys will take over for the safety of your own region, because we have domestic issues we still have to work on.
I think it's very much a self-inflicted wound that this is dragging on and getting closer to the midterms and possibly having a big impact on voters in November, when we know that if we wanted to, we could end this thing in 24 hours. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, is to go and wipe them out, but it's time to get a whole lot tougher than what we have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Way more.
I grew up with the phrase, don't talk about it, be about it.
Yeah.
And we've been getting a lot of talk about stuff going on, but I mean, at some point you have to be about it, especially when how many times have we heard that Cuba's next after this?
Yeah. One last thing here I wanted to mention about all the talk from Iran this week. A military spokesperson last night said that Tehran has fully restored their missile stockpiles. Stockpiles have been a big topic over here. They've fully restored their missile stockpiles. Don't know how they're doing that with no facilities to build. And they've completely replenished their military. They fixed all the boats, they fixed all the planes, and they got all their missiles. Again, don't believe it, but the audacity that we're allowing them to have. Go ahead.
Okay, so China has the capacity to way outbuild us when it comes to ships, and we know, or at least suspect, that them and Russia are providing some of the drones and some of the military, equipment. So I'm not saying that they're absolutely honest. I think that they will lie till the cows come home. But I can imagine that at the very least, maybe they're getting restocked enough to where they can continue to do the nonsense they've been doing for the past 4 months.
Well, restocking their military is literally putting a guy with a machine gun in the back seat of a fishing boat. So
with a rowboat and a landmine, right?
Exactly. Producer Jerome from Mike Ferguson in the Morning, Randy Tobler Show, and Larry Connors, USA. Great stuff, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
We'll
much.
have to do this again very soon. I said that last time, and
you meant it.
And we're going to do it again. Yeah, great stuff. That's going to do it for us. Colombo and Company back tomorrow at 2 p.m. In the meantime, speaking of Larry Connors, keep it here. Larry's commentary is next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Thank you for listening to us and supporting us here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Stuck on you. I'm gonna run my fingers through your long black hair.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing.